Hello everyone, and a happy International Youth Day. My name is Kohei Yamada, an Associate Social Affairs Officer from the Division for Inclusive Development in the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs. I will be an MC for this webinar. I'm excited to be here today for this official commemoration of International Youth Day 2023 under the theme Green Skills for Youth Towards a Sustainable World. This webinar is organized by UN DESA in collaboration with the UN Global Initiative on Decent Jobs for Youth and Generation Unlimited. Now, to officially open the webinar, I would like to invite Mr. Lee Junhwa, Under Secretary General of the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, to deliver his
It is a great pleasure to welcome you to on this International Youth Day. I'm delighted to be part of today's official commemoration. This year, we are focusing on the theme of the green skill for youth towards a sustainable future, highlighting vital skills that are needed for a climate-friendly and sustainable society, both today and in future. It is crucial to recognize the pivotal role that young people played in this transformative process. It is often said that the future lies in the hands of our youth. The depth of that statement is becoming increasingly clear. The transition to a greener world hinges on developing green skills, especially among the youth, who will lead the change for years to come. Today's webinar, organized by UN DESA in collaboration with the UN Global Initiative on Decent Jobs for Youth and with Generation Unlimited, aims to ignite the global conversations on green skills for youth. We recognize that these skills are integral to advancing the green transition and achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. This webinar brings together young people and experts from around the world who are dedicated to building an inclusive and sustainable society. We will examine the relevance of the green skills for promoting the green economy and making sustainable decisions across the various domains of life and work. We will explore how the green transition is impacting youth employment. We will also identify the evolving skills needed for the future world of the work and highlight the importance of inclusion in fostering both the green transition and skill development. Throughout the discussion, we will shine a spotlight on inspiring youth-led initiatives that are leveraging critical opportunities and tackling diverse challenges. I'm confident that today's webinar will provide valuable insights, raise awareness about the green skills for youth, and reinforce our collective commitment to an inclusive, sustainable, and equitable world for all ages. Let today serve as a reminder that young people are catalysts for change. Let us ensure that they have the support, skills, and the freedom they need to lead us to a better tomorrow. Thank you all for tuning in, and I wish all of you a happy International Youth Day.
Thank you very much, Under Secretary General Mr. Lee, for sharing the encouraging remarks. In light of these important themes, along with this webinar, UN DESA has also worked to put together knowledge products and communication materials to help raise awareness about green skills for youth. This includes green skills infographics, social media toolkit, and other key resources from partners. They are available on the UN DESA website and the International Youth Day 2023 Trailer Board, together with a series of celebration messages to mark this important day. Now, we move on to the webinar overview to briefly share the background and what we expect from the dialogue we are about to have. Over the last 2 decades of International Youth Day celebrations, we explored many innovative and timely themes relevant to young people. As we know, the theme this year is Green Skills for Youth. These themes were selected as we recognize that the shift towards an environmentally sustainable and climate-friendly society is important not only for tackling the global climate crisis, but also for achieving the SDGs more broadly. In order to bring a greener future, we need to support the development of the green skills, especially in the young populations. So what are the green skills? Green skills are defined as knowledge, abilities, values, and attitudes needed to live in, develop, and support a sustainable and resource-efficient society. Those include technical knowledge and skills that are necessary for the effective use of the green technologies and promoting green processes in the work setting, as well as the transversal skills to facilitate environmentally sustainable decisions in all aspects of life. Skills are relevant for all of us, regardless of age, but they're especially important for young people who can contribute to the green transition for a longer period. Green skills are a multidimensional concept, and this is why this webinar is divided into 3 panels to better understand different aspects of the green skills for youth. In the first panel, we focus on skills for green jobs led by the UN Global Initiative on Decent Job for Youth of the International Labour Organization, which talks about the impact of the green transition to the world of work and changing skills demand for young people. The second panel is led by Generation Unlimited, focusing on the perspective in the world of life and then close-cutting transversal skills that young people need for making sustainable life decisions and shaping a greener society. The third panel is led by UN DESA, with a focus on the skills for just green transition, highlighting efforts to address inequalities and promote inclusion in the process of the green transition. Following these 3 panels, we have a spotlight session by the United Nations Environment Programme to share views on sustainable lifestyle and the role of individuals by applying the people's lens to sustainability. As you see in the agenda, this webinar will feature perspectives from the international organizations, government, businesses, and individual young experts working on this area. We hope this webinar will offer you key information and data on green skills for youth as we share various practices for, with, and by young people. Now, let us start our first panel discussion on skills for green jobs. We would like to invite Mr. Sergio Iriarte Quezada, Youth Employment Accelerator from Employment Policy, Job Creation, and Livelihood Department at ILO.
Hello, everybody, and happy International Youth Day. Thank you, Kohi, for giving us the space, and thank you all for taking the time to join us today. I'm Sergio Iriarte Quesada, and I will be your moderator for today's first panel discussion on the topic of skills for green jobs. I'm from Bolivia, and I have been working for 15 years at the ILO, the International Labour Organization, on youth employment, business process improvement and change management, and skills development and lifelong learning. I'm currently working at the Youth Employment Accelerator of the Employment Labor Markets and Youth Branch at the ILO's Employment Policy, Job Creation and Livelihoods Department. I would like to mention that the ILO coordinates and leads the Decent Jobs for Youth, that it's a global initiative to scale up action and impact on youth employment in support of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Let's start with 8.4 million. 8.4 million jobs created by 2030 for young women and men. For far too long, the people dimension of environmental and climate change has been the collective blind spot. However, with the Just Transition agenda, it has finally gained momentum. And the rationale is clear. In one hand, 1.2 billion jobs globally depend on a healthy natural environment. On the other, millions of jobs can be created in the green and blue economies boosting communities and local economies. ILO's recent estimates show that if policy measures to facilitate a green transition are taken, we can witness the creation of 8.4 million jobs for young people by 2030. The number of jobs cannot be the only consideration in assessing the impacts of green investments. The quality of jobs matters too. Let us now meet our panelists, and I take the opportunity to thank them for being with us today. To start, I will give the floor to Ms. Haikyung Chun so that she can introduce herself. Then we will go to Ms. Rabia Anwar and Ms. Boitumelo Molete to do their respective introductions. Haikyung, over to you.
Thank you, Sergio. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. My name is Haikyung Chun. I'm working as a technical officer at the ILO's Skills and Employability branch. And my work area focuses on skills needs anticipation of the future of work, with a particular focus on skills for green jobs. It's a great pleasure for me to be in this panel discussion for the commemoration of the International Youth Day. Over to you, Rabia.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here and extend my gratitude to ILO for providing this platform that includes social partners, particularly the youth in this crucial discussion. I am from Pakistan, representing Employers Federation of Pakistan and the ILO. I have been engaged with ILO for nearly 7 years, and I'm currently working on skills development, inclusivity, and just transition. We know that that working in silos can just limit our potential for meaningful change. Therefore, it is really essential and imperative that we engage in open dialogues and foster collaboration for a shared vision. So I'm eager to hear the insightful perspectives that my fellow panelists will share today. And I hope all who are listening can benefit from this and continue this dialogue. Thank you, and over to you, Boitumelo.
Thank you very much. Good morning from South Africa. My name is Boitumelo Molete, and I am from the Congress of South African Trade Unions, working as the Social Development Policy Coordinator. I'm a lead on work on just transition and climate change. I'm also a member of the Youth Advisory Group for Green Jobs, Youth Pact, as well as an active participant in UNFCCC processes, which include the previous Bonn climate conference that happened. So I'm quite actively involved in ensuring that the voice of young workers is heard in all spectrums of the discussions. Thank you.
Thanks to all of you. I think that we have a great panel today. So let's enjoy and hear to each other. So now let's dig deeper into the subject matters for our discussion. So skills for green jobs, to understand its nature, determinants, and manifestations in the many different spheres of our lives. Haikyung, as a skills for future specialist, you must have a unique insight in what is the impact of the green transition on the labor market and what skills are essential for young individuals to possess in order to seize the opportunities that arise from these shifts towards sustainability. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you for the question. Definitely the green, as you already rightly mentioned, setting the scene for today's panel discussion, the green transition has a profound impact on the labor market, creating new jobs, causing some job losses, and also changing many of the skills requirement of many existing jobs. Back in 2019, the ILO did a global research on the impact of employment by skill level, gender, and occupations, how the green transition affects the employment on the side of the employment. And it shows that more than 103 million jobs could be created globally by 2030. However, that it means that people would need new skills through education and training to be able to tap into those newly arised job opportunities. On the other hand, we should not forget that the same research shows that some 78 million jobs could also be lost globally by 2030. 2030 in the green transition. And this requires massive investment in reskilling and upskilling for the workers so that they can move from declining sector to the growing sectors in the context of green transition. And we also, as I mentioned, look into the gender aspect, that it suggests that the current occupational gender stereotypes are likely to persist by 2030, meaning that women will only get a fraction of jobs created unless targeted measures are taken to train and educate women in relevant skills to take up the opportunities of the green transition. And we also looked into the different skills level, and all occupations are changing in one way or another in the green transition. And on top of that, the most turnover will be happening at the higher skilled occupations, particularly at the medium skilled occupations. And this does have a great implication for technical and vocational education training, the TVET level. And given this very brief introduction on the impact of green transition on the labor market, what are the skills that the young people should possess is a good combination of different types of skills, meaning, first of all, technical skills that are specific to occupations, such as skills related to wind turbine installation, maintenance, repair would be important. Second, foundational skills, so-called literacy, numeracy. I think these days we can also add digital and environmental literacy. That becomes the basis for any learning and work is also important. Last but not least, core skills are important, so-called soft skills such as communication, business skills, teamwork skills, negotiation skills that are not specific to the occupation per se, but that's portable from one occupation to another, from one sector to another, that enhance the employability of the young people in the labor market. Last point I would like to highlight is that this world is changing so fast. At the same time, we are living longer. For young people, it sounds a little remote, but that's a matter of fact. That, however, at the same time, this net zero is demanding a lot of changes in human behaviors, production process, service delivery. And that means that we also will need to adapt how we learn as well. And I would like to emphasize that green transition is not the only trend that we face. There are also other mega trends such as digitalization, technological advancement, and demographic shift that form really a dynamic web of intertwined factors that's reshaping this world of work. Therefore, the young people would need to move away from the thinking that education and training ends at the compulsory level to the notion of lifelong learning, green learning. So that's my first inputs for this question. Over to you, Sergio.
Thank you very much, Haikang, for those very insightful inputs, information, and comments. As you rightly mentioned, young people need to be aware of the changes and all the different factors that are now being and happening in the world of work that is changing very, very, very fast. Now I will turn to Rabia. From your perspective, how can we foster greater collaboration between businesses and education and training providers to enhance the training opportunities available to young people for green jobs? More specifically, how can we encourage the participation of business in financing technical and vocational education and training, TVET, and skills development programs to advance the green transition agenda? It will be very interesting to listen to you. Thank you, Rabia.
Thank you, Sergio. And I'll just follow up to what Haikang has said, that young people need to understand that, need to adapt this lifelong learning concept. And in order to make that possible, I think I'll just take you back to what I said earlier, that collaboration, of creating awareness and social dialogue, these are the cornerstones of this progress. And to foster greater collaboration between business and education and training providers, we must first recognize the mutual benefits that lie within this partnership. One key aspect is creating a shared vision. It is crucial for business and education providers to align their goals and objectives, ensuring that training programs are designed to meet the demands of the green economy. In addition to a shared vision, successful collaboration necessitates active engagement from both parties, and business play a very crucial role in financing TIVET programs and skill development, showcasing their commitment to sustainability while nurturing green talent in the future workforce. A compelling example of collaboration is the ILO's Zimbabwe's Green Enterprise Program. Over 4 years, this initiative brought together various stakeholders, including Ministry of Education, TIVET institutions, industry representatives, employers and workers organizations, just to name a few. Their collaborative efforts resulted in the development and launch of new TIVET curricula focused on essential aspects of their country's green economy. Notably, the collaboration enabled professionals from all different sectors to collaborate in creating the curricula, demonstrating the power of partnership in driving sustainable education and workforce development. There are numerous examples that emphasize the importance of fostering business collaboration and engagement. However, as an employer, for this collaboration to remain sustainable, we need to address what financial incentives are there for businesses as well. Numerous countries incentivize business engagement with the green agenda through financial incentives. For example, in Guyana, microfinance organizations offer green financing, while public-private organizations enable green businesses to access skills training. Additionally, business actively support education and training providers by providing financial assistance for establishing green skills programs, workshops, and training sessions. These examples illustrate how financial incentives encourage businesses to play an instrumental role in promoting sustainability and green development for a greener future. To promote business engagement, it is essential to create incentives and recognition frameworks that reward and acknowledge businesses for their financial contributions. And I think government plays a very important part in that. Government and other relevant authorities. They can play a very significant role in providing tax incentives, grants, or other forms of support to encourage businesses to participate in financing TIVET and skill development programs. Moreover, building strong partnerships between business and education providers not only help in development of a curriculum, but of creation of internships and apprenticeships opportunities. This facilitates a smoother transition from education to employment, and also motivates students and young people to pursue careers in green sectors. In conclusion, I would like to mention 2 impactful resources that can benefit all who are listening. Firstly, the 2022 ILO document, Greening TIVET and Skills Development, showcases the power of collaboration among stakeholders in enhancing training opportunities for young people in green jobs. This guidance tool emphasizes the importance of encouraging businesses to invest in green programs through aligned goals and strong partnerships. Secondly, I'm honored to represent the recently launched ILO Green Jobs for Youth Pact, a multi-stakeholder initiative focused on creating sustainable jobs for youth worldwide. This initiative, with the Youth Advisory Group at its core, is dedicated to fostering meaningful youth engagement and promoting a just transition. So I encourage everyone to explore this vital conversation and become a part of this impactful movement. Thank you. Over to you, Sergio.
Thank you very much, Rabia. I think that it's really important the points that you raised. I just wanted to mention two points. So social dialogue, that it's at the heart of the ILO, and it's really in our DNA. And the second thing you mentioned, apprenticeships. So in our International Labor Conference at the ILO that happens every year, this year, the organization, so all our member states, governments, employers, and workers adopted a new recommendation, a new international labor standards on quality apprenticeships. So I think that that's one guiding for all the countries to follow for a very well way method system policy program to adopt to help young people being employable and to get a job at the end of the day, a quality job. Thank you very much. Now I would like to ask Boitumelo a question. So as a representative voice of young workers, can you tell us about the aspirations of young workers regarding green jobs, and how can we provide support to help them achieve their goals, including skills and employability? And what recent initiatives has your organization undertaken to support young workers in this regard? Please,
Sure.
the first yours.
Thank you very much. I think the first thing that I'd like to indicate is that young workers are looking forward to being participants of this new low carbon economy. We are universally advocating and promoting for green jobs. Young people are predominantly the ones who are at the interface of the changing world of work and the transition in its entirety. So for the transition to be just, it has to be inclusive, and it has to have young workers at the center of it, where the voices of young workers are heard. Green jobs in this emerging low carbon economy will require specific skills, as mentioned by my co-panelists. And this makes for a great opportunity where young workers can be afforded meaningful jobs that are decent and sustainable, speaking directly to the ILO decent work agenda, as well as where decent conditions of employment, decent pay and wages, and labor rights are central and respected. Young workers are advocating, influencing, and lobbying through social dialogue for policy and legislation to eradicate casualization and precarious work that leaves young people more vulnerable to the exploitation of capitalism. This also includes putting in place policies that are very strict and very direct with regards to provisions of comprehensive social protection. That will be a safety net, noting the high unemployment rate, especially in countries like South Africa. So a protected young worker, basically in all aspects, will ensure that there is a just transition. There are various challenges that are facing young workers. These include not having sufficient skills, not having sufficient education and training, and the issues of basically finding employment in their own. So in supporting and providing young workers with relevant skills, it would be where I think the support would come from, the creation of decent jobs that are sustainable and will be beneficial to young people and their development, putting young workers in the room where policy, legislation, and action on just transition is important. This is both nationally and internationally, especially through the UNFCCC processes. We need to have young workers represented at those tables. At the national level, there needs to be a change in curriculum, where the curriculum addresses the demands that will come with entering into green jobs and also imparting those green skills that would be required. It is important that the education system responds to the demands of the green economy and the workplace. Therefore, vocational training and education are essential parts of ensuring that the skills gap is closed. This will ensure for work readiness. There needs to be meaningful engagement with young workers to ensure their needs and interests are accommodated for, so that they are able to be active participants in the low carbon economy. So it's also important that there is availing of opportunities and jobs through apprenticeships, internships, where young workers can receive experience that will ensure that they are able to participate in the low carbon economy. Further to this, it's a prerequisite that there is skilling, upskilling, and reskilling of entering into the labor market are currently looking at as of the green jobs in this economy. I also want to note that COSATU has developed a blueprint for workers. That is a toolkit that workers use as a guiding document towards a just transition. We have focused on 3 sectors, that is coal, mining, agriculture, as well as transport. These are not sectors that are exclusive to the just transition. However, we had to start somewhere, noting that South Africa is a coal-intensive country. The coal mining sector was quite important that we focus on. In the blueprints, we have potential pathways that will be established in a just transition and a guide, and this is a guide for workers in its entirety. The issue of skilling, reskilling, and upskilling is highlighted as being key to the just transition. And this is to ensure that there is a smooth transition through the skilling and upskilling of workers. In attempt to ensure that there is inclusivity and representation of young workers, the Federation has strategically launched the COSATU Young Workers Forum, where young workers are able to ventilate their issues and their demands. It is through the policy unit of COSATU that we have recently started a project here where young workers are engaging on the just transition and what it means for them as a youth. So we are trying to establish a young workers' perspective on just transition, where young workers will be able to ventilate the issues in which they'd like us to focus on when it comes to the just transition. In this also will speak to the issues of unemployment in South Africa, will speak to the future of work, and will speak to the just transition in its entirety. The focus of the just transition as a COSATU position is not focused only on energy. We are looking at the just transition as a multi-sectoral transition, and therefore that's the approach that we are taking in our education and in our training when it comes to young workers and imparting the skills and the knowledge of just transition. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Boitumelo, for openly sharing your experiences and allowing us that insight. You mentioned one point that it's very important, social protection and social security for young women and men, and the sectoral approach that it's important to take into account in this topic. I would like now to invite the panel to share quick reactions on what we just heard. I don't know if anybody wants to go first.
I can go first.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, and it's great to hear that there are a lot of good practices happening, and I was very happy to hear that greening TVET and skills development guidance was mentioned by Rabia. It's a guidance that I've been coordinating at the ILO for the birth of it, so very good to hear that it's one of the two main guidance tools to be promoted. So just building on what has been mentioned, Rabia has mentioned about this mutual benefits, which I think is a very important concept that both business and TVET and education providers should have this mutual benefits by working together. And I think in the context of green transition, it's very important that it's not only businesses that will inform the education and training providers about what's changing in the labor markets, but at the same time, TVET and skills development, it's an aspect where they can also sensitize the enterprises that are relatively less sensitized on the green transition, meaning that definitely on the renewable energy sector, the enterprises, the employers are leading the green transition work. And they are the one who can inform about what's going on and what are the skills requirements in the labor market. But at the same time, there are sectors that are not, there are less sensitized per se, such as agriculture sector, that needs more sensitization about the green transition and how it will affect their the future labor force, and etc. So TVET and the education and training providers have a great actually role to play for sensitizing and having the mutual benefits. I think that's one kind of key takeaway that I wanted to mention. And on the workers side, I think it's we often say that we need like kind of demand-driven curriculum for the TVET and education and training programs. But at the same time, it reminds me that we also need to reflect the aspiration of these young people who has a great potential to become a change of agent, especially in this green transition agenda. And that also has to be not only reflected in the programs, but also career guidance and coaching and mentoring for the young people so that they can really act as a change of agent in this green transition. So yeah, that's all. I hope I was not too long, but over to you, sir, for other speakers. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think that it's really interesting what you just gave us a key takeaway. Thank you. Any reaction, Rabia, Boitumelo, from your sides?
Yeah, I'll just go next. I'm just happy to note that this panel is a testament, and it shows that how if we have the important social dialogues and collaboration, it can really move forward. We can really move forward in the green transition agenda, and social dialogue and collaboration is at the heart of it. And green, like Helcom very aptly pointed out, that green transition is just one facet of the broader changes we are experiencing. There are technological advancements and demographic shifts that are changing our world. To thrive in this evolving landscape, young people must embrace lifelong learning approach, and collaboration and social dialogue becomes paramount in advancing the green transition agenda and equipping the young people with necessary skills for an inclusive and greener future. And platforms like these and others serves as a medium for young people to go and explore, build their network, and learn as much as they can and collaborate. And yeah, I'm happy that I get to be a part of this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rabi. And I think that we're all glad that you participate today. Thank you. Boitumelo?
Sure. I think this panel was quite clear in the importance of social dialogue. And I think the ILO has been raised quite firmly as one of the key institutions that are beneficial into ensuring that the discussions of the involvement of youth is quite strongly advocated for. Collaboration is one of the most important things that has come through in noting that Ravi and I are both from employer and workers, and ensuring that we're not speaking or working in silos, but working towards a greener and a just and inclusive transition is something that I'm taking out of this panel. The importance of skills, the importance of education, vocational learning, lifelong learning and green learning is something that's also coming up as quite strongly in this panel. So investing in our youth, ensuring that we are able to give them opportunities, able to mentor them, able to give them specific skills that will empower them to be participants of the new world of work and the future of work. In ensuring that there is a climate resilient economy in the future, we need to have our youth empowered. So this is basically what I'm taking from this. And thank you very much for inviting me. It's quite a pleasure to be here representing young workers.
Thank you very much, Boitumelo. It's really a pleasure for all of us, I think. And the messages that we're giving are quite strong. So thank you very much. Again, thank you to everybody for being part of today's rich discussion. To close, I won't give key takeaways because I think that your messages now reflect what the summary of what we just mentioned. So I would like to close just mentioning one thing that Boitumelo and Rabia mentioned already, but to give a bit more details. So both of you are members of the Youth Advisory Group of the Green Jobs for Youth Pact. So just to mention that in 2021, the ILO, UNICEF, and UNEP joined forces to design a special initiative on green jobs for youth. So we did so recognizing our joint work through the UN Global Initiative on Decent Jobs for Youth and the UN Climate Action for Jobs Initiative, both led by the ILO. UNICEF's Generation Unlimited, and UNEP's Global Opportunity for Sustainable Development Goals. So the pact brings together our comparative and competitive advantages to mobilize the political will, especially, but also resources and innovation to accelerate global commitments for climate action, secure decent green jobs for youth, and foster skills for the green economy. In particularly, the pact, what we want to achieve with it and the big ambition that it has is creating 1 million new green jobs for existing employers, greening 1 million existing jobs, and supporting 10,000 young entrepreneurs establishing sustainable green businesses. And we believe that by working hand in hand with young people, governments, through leaders, social partners, the private sector, and educators, we can achieve these goals by 2030. Again, Haikyung, Rabia, Boitumelo, it was really a pleasure and an honor to be with you today. Again, happy International Youth Day to all. And with that, we will close our panel discussion. And I would like to thank Kohi for allowing us to be part of the commemoration of the International Youth Day. So Kohi, thank you very much, and over to you. Thank you again all. Have a nice day.
Transition 3.
Thank you, Sergio, and all the speakers from panel 1 for the inspiring conversation on the skills for green jobs. Now, let's move on to our second panel on green skills and sustainable lifestyle. We would like to invite Ms. Julia Stevens, program consultant and youth specialist from Generation Unlimited, to moderate this session. Julia.
Thank you, Kohei, and to the fantastic ILO panel for sharing such interesting insights. My name is Julia Stevens, and I will be moderating today's second panel discussion on the topic of green skills and sustainable lifestyles. I work with UNICEF's Generation Unlimited. We partner with young people, the public and private sector to skill the world's 1.8 billion young people and connect them to opportunities for employment, entrepreneurship, and social impact. Now, we have just heard from the first panel about the huge potential and opportunity that the green transition presents to both respond to the climate crisis and to create decent employment for young people. We at GenU know that young people are already taking action to create a more sustainable world. Young people are demonstrating their leadership, their innovation, their problem-solving capacities. In fact, according to a recent poll, 71% of young people want to be actively involved in the green transition. But, and here's the big caveat, many young people suggest that they lack the skill sets to do so. This is actually backed up by analysis from the World Skills Clock that suggests if current trends continue, more than 60% of the youth population, that's around 830 million, will lack the basic skills that they need to be participating in the green economy by 2030. So what exactly are these green skills and how do young people go about developing them? And how might they also encourage sustainable lifestyles? Today, we are joined by 4 expert panelists who will be sharing their perspectives on these questions. So let's meet our panelists. To start off, I will give the floor to Jean-Claude Nyamgobo, Action Team, just to say a quick hello and then give an introduction. So Jean-Claude, over to you.
Thank you so much for this wonderful conversation. My name is Jean-Claude Nyamgobo, and I'm based in Rwanda. I'm Young People Action Team members from Generation Unlimited. I'm also the co-founder and the CEO of Spec Farms. It's an agri-tech company that works with young people to connect them to different skills in conservation agriculture, as well as environmental protection. We work with different young people in Rwanda, and we make sure that those young people can turn agriculture into a profitable business venture, as well as conserving environment so that the future will be based on that effort for the young people. It's a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to this wonderful conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jean-Claude. I look forward to hearing more about your enterprise as well. Okay, let's move on then to Martley Duplessis from PwC. Are you willing to say just a quick introduction?
Thank you very much, and greetings from Cape Town at the southern tip of Africa. My name, as she said, is Martley Duplessis. I lead our Workforce of the Future platform across Africa, and it's a privilege to be part of today's conversation.
Thank you so much. Now I'll pass the floor to Andrea Derem. Andrea?
Thank you so much, Julia. Well, my name is Andrea Rem. I'm based in Mexico City right now, so good morning to everyone from this side of the world. And I'm a member of the YPAD of Generation Unlimited, as well as the Global Leadership Council, and I'm also a STEM entrepreneur.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Andrea. And finally, Mr. Nites, over to you for a quick introduction.
Thank you so much. My name is Nitesh Kumar Misra. I'm Joint Secretary to the Government of India. I'm based in Delhi, and I'm also holding the charge of Director General of Nehru Yuva Kendra Sangathan, which is an autonomous youth organization under Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports in Government of India, which is working with 5 million young volunteers. Thank you.
Brilliant. So I could already see the wealth of knowledge and experience and insight that we're going to gather through this conversation. So let's jump into our discussion on green skills and sustainable lifestyles. Jean-Claude, I'd love to start with you. As an environmental entrepreneur, you must have a really kind of unique insight. Can you tell us a little bit more about your environmental agri-tech company? And perhaps tell us a little bit about the kind of the types of skills that you have needed to develop as a co-founder and where you developed those skills.
Okay, thank you so much. As I said, my name is Jean-Claude Nyamgobo. I'm the co-founder and the CEO of Spec Farms. It's an agri-tech company that works with young people in Rwanda. So we work with them to make sure that they can get the skills that is needed to make sure that they can turn agriculture into a profitable business ventures. We work with young people in different ways, such as helping them to construct a kitchen garden in their school as well as in their homes. We also work with them to make sure that they can turn wastes into a compost and sell them to the farmers. Through those activities, they make money out of it. And when it comes to agriculture, we teach them how they can grow crops in a way that is more sustainable. And we make sure that we can give them the market for their produce by using social media platforms. So from that, we make sure that all young people in Rwanda can take a part in environmental conservation as well as agriculture conservation. And the second question that you mentioned is about the kind of skills that is needed in this space. In this space of agriculture and environment, in order to have the skills that I can share with the young people, I attend the university to study about conservation agriculture. I did the Bachelor's of Sciences in Conservation Agriculture, and I minored in communication, leadership, entrepreneurship, and environment. And from that, this is where I developed the skills that I should be able to share with the young people. Besides that, I took also the online courses and the trainings, such as planning, monitoring, and evaluation, e-commerce in agribusiness, as well as agriculture sustainability. You know, in order to transfer the skills to the young people, you need to make sure that you have the right skills that those people need, especially young people, so that they can make a huge contribution. And from those skills, I took different skills such as technical and life skills. And maybe I can share with you about those skills. For the technical skills, I was able to learn about the farm management, environmental conservation. Those are the skills that is needed for the specific jobs. And especially in agriculture and environment, you need those skills. And I didn't stop from that. I also took different, skills such as life skills, communication, teamwork, so that maybe I can collaborate and communicate with those young people. In this space of agriculture and environment, you don't need the technical skills. You need also the soft skills, life skills, to make sure that those combined skills can benefit the people, can benefit the young people. Thank you so much.
That's really interesting. This idea that, yes, of course, when we're talking about kind of skills for the future and green skills, we're talking about technical skill sets, depending on the area that you work in. But this idea that kind of soft skills and kind of life skills in terms of communication and working with others and problem solving, these types of things sound like they were really integral to your journey as an environmental entrepreneur. Thank you, Jean-Claude. I'll turn to you now, Madeleine. From your perspective as a kind of a workforce development specialist at PwC, what do you kind of see as the green skills gap, and how do you think kind of businesses can, or what role do you think businesses can play in helping to kind of close that gap?
So PwC definitely acknowledges the importance of identifying the skills for the future and then putting programs in place to be future fit. As a result, we have developed a New World New Skills global campaign. And the purpose of that campaign is really threefold. It's to upskill our own employees to make sure that they understand the future world of work, to work with our clients and make sure that they are future ready, but also to give back to the communities alongside us. And that is why programs like our collaboration, our 3-year strategic collaboration with UNICEF and Generation Unlimited play such a critical role. That is where public, private, civil society and NGO organizations are coming together to give youth the opportunity to upskill themselves. Why is this important? I mean, you will know that we have recently recorded the hottest temperature on Earth. And that really means that climate change is happening much faster than what we can transition to net zero. Now, in order to bridge that gap, we absolutely have to have the right skills, plus we have to have the right green jobs that people can deliver and improve on what we currently have. And there's a gap at the moment. as you have said, 71% of the youth is saying that they're keen, they really want to participate. The report that PwC has done with UNICEF and Generation Unlimited is showing that they are known as the net zero generation. They are fueled by passion, but they've got so much barriers at the moment, which is increasing the gap, and that is education system, not having the right certifications in place. You know, if you also look at jobs in the market from a corporate perspective, not enough green jobs where people can live out the green skills. And then lastly, there's even things like gender gap, where males at the moment have more exposure to green skill development and green jobs. So there's a lot in terms of addressing the barriers that needs to happen before we can make progress. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. It really is. We have seen through the collaboration that we have with UNICEF and Generation Unlimited, the difference that these organizations that's coming together can make. But it really speaks to government that needs to look at the education system, certification for green skills. It speaks to corporate organizations that need to acknowledge the importance of green skills and bake it into their learning and development program. It also speaks to corporate organizations being a catalyst for green entrepreneurs, you know, giving them the platform so that their ideas can get wings, but also to increase access to everybody, to the youth across the globe, skills forums, green skills forums, where they can also contribute and get access to these ideas. And it's urgent. We have to act urgently. Otherwise, you are correct, that 60% gap in terms of the green skills that we will require in the future is definitely going to become a reality.
Yes, thank you so much. I think this idea that, you know, we need to be like looking at what the jobs of the future are and think it's key. Thank you so much. Let's move on then to hear from Andrea. We've just heard, Andrea, about this idea of the green skills gap. I know that you are the CEO and founder of a social venture that supports young women specifically to develop skills. Can you tell us a little bit about the types of skills that you develop through your projects and program, and perhaps also touch on, you know, how you think the skills not only support young people to identify opportunities in the workplace, but also think about living more sustainable lifestyles. So I'll pass the floor to you, Andrea.
Thanks, Julia. Absolutely. Well, I work more specifically, as you mentioned, with young girls and young girls in STEM, because as Martel mentioned, I want to help bridge that gender gap that exists in science and technology. It's crucial, it's vital. Women are clearly underrepresented in these fields, and we do so by ensuring that there's more women participating, by teaching them that science is fun, science is very creative, and that is multidisciplinary too. I think most girls feel that they lack the skills and the confidence to join those areas, but we all have the same capabilities. It's more a matter of pushing them and making sure that they feel they're capable of doing that. And we start from the primary school level, because once they become teens, they already have a bit of biases, of ideas that they are not capable, so on and so forth. But, you know, one of the skills that we really want to push is not only the soft skills of confidence, but also those technical skills. As I mentioned beforehand, science and technology is multidisciplinary. We can connect them very easily, one to our everyday, if we explain it well, to other subjects such as social sciences. Let's think about, you know, our first experiment in science. Most of us thought about bringing this tiny seed, make it grow. It goes back to this idea of agripreneurship. We have lifelong skills that we're taking into account that we don't necessarily always think about it. And green jobs will require these sort of skills in a lifelong manner. So we need to motivate these young girls to think about science in a very different way. Engineering, I think most of us will need engineers to be able to continue developing this green energies, to continue creating problem solving, so on and so forth. So let's make sure that we are bringing this woman and showing them that science is not as complicated as we thought, but teach them that we need to both have the soft skills, this hard skills all together, and how are these all interconnected with one another.
Thank you, Andrea. Yeah, this idea of, thinking about what are the specific skills of the future. So thinking about the STEM subjects that we're going to need to be concentrating on and developing in young populations, but then also really taking going that extra mile and considering, who are the young people that are going to be left furthest behind, and what additional activities do we need to create to ensure that those young people, or young women specifically in your case, really have the access to that kind of skill development so that they can engage and participate in the green jobs of the future. Thank you so much. Brilliant. So we've heard a little bit already about the types of kind of projects, initiatives that young people are setting up, and where and how companies like PwC are kind of engaging in mapping the skills gap, but also then filling the skills gap. I'd love to turn now to Mr. Nitesh. As the Joint Secretary for Youth Affairs in the Ministry of India's Youth Affairs, can you tell us a little bit more about, I guess, the work that India is doing at kind of a national level to establish a skills system that enables young people to acquire these kind of relevant green skills? So I'll pass the floor to you, Mr. Nitesh.
Thank you so much. I will be talking about the initiatives which have been taken by my country. The country has outlined a bold roadmap for its own transformation over the next few decades, while influencing the global narratives on green growth. Internally, the government is driving several initiatives across energy generation, transportation, and manufacturing. This has reflected in the increasing capital flow towards initiatives promoting green growth. Furthermore, major policy reforms such as production-linked incentives schemes are set to boost local manufacturing of green products. Globally, India's G20 presidency has come at a time when global leaders are facing the impact of multiple interconnected crises. India's emphasis on life, that is lifestyle for environment, mission focused on sustainable living, Panchamrit, the government's 5-step plan to achieve net zero emissions, and India's steering of global initiatives such as International Solar Alliance offer a unique leadership role for the country to shape the global direction on green growth. Together, these trends have potential to help India unlock the $1 trillion in value by 2030 and $15 trillion by 2017 in its pursuit to be a climate positive economy. The Green Skill Development Program is one of India's most important efforts to promote sustainability and green skills. The National Skill Development Corporation is in charge of implementing the GSDP, which was introduced in 2017 by Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. GSDP aims to develop a pool of qualified workers in the environment and forest sector, including renewable energy, pollution control, and biodiversity preservation. It focuses on giving young people, especially those from rural and poor areas, training and certification in a variety of green skills for nation's sustainable growth. Similarly, the Skill Council for Green Jobs was launched by Ministry of New and Renewable Energy and Confederation of Indian Industry in 2015, with the aim to identify skill required in green business sector, train candidates, and facilitate green business growth. SCGC has trained more than 55,30,000 candidates till date, that is around 500,000. The council has an online job portal and is now looking to digitize its training program through the Green India portal. SCGC also announced collaboration with German industries to promote the development of skills and job opportunities in the field of renewable energy. So that is in brief my country's initiatives which has been taken. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, that goes to show kind of really what is possible when there is a kind of an enabling national policy environment that really focuses on scaling green skills development, but also looks at the kind of the benefits of green skills for young people in terms of sustainable lifestyles as well. I'd love to just have a follow-up question with you, Mr. Nitesh, in terms of the kind of partnerships that you believe that are essential to taking these types of initiatives to scale, and perhaps this is something I'd love to hear from each of the different panelists, but what type of partnerships do you think are kind of necessary to be able to achieve these really kind of ambitious goals that have been set through the policy environment?
We look towards a public-private partnership a lot for for attaining these targets. India has the largest youth population in the world. Public-private youth partnership are needed to connect the 367 million youths of India and 1.8 billion youth of the world to opportunities. The GSDP has a wide scope and covers various regions and communities across India. It has partnered with several institutions, both government and non-governmental, to implement the program. These institutions include the Indian Institute of Technology, the Indian Institute of Forest Management, and the Wildlife Institute of India, the Center for Environment Education, and the National Institute of Solar Energy, among others. The program has also collaborated with the state governments, particularly the Forest Department and Pollution Control Boards, to ensure that it reaches all regions of the country. Some of the challenges to scaling up are the lack of awareness among the general youth about green jobs. Besides, the industry still has a long way to go in terms of aligning its system for green jobs and green skilled workers. Another challenge is the lack of adequate infrastructure and finance in some of the subsectors. The industry has to recognize itself and take lead as the primary demand driver for green job creation and work very closely with government players to ensure the programs are aligned to their needs and contemporary demands. They also need to seriously push the green job agenda within their own system as part of their own mission and vision to ensure a large-scale transition. Thank you.
Thank you. Really interesting to hear this idea of, it's a holistic approach. It's about bringing together all the different players. But I'm interested in this idea of industry and the role that industry plays. And I don't know if Madle, you have any thoughts on that or responses or reflections to that?
Absolutely. I think it is critical for various entities to come together and to hold hands. And I want to give a practical example where through the collaboration that we have with UNICEF and GNU, we were able to bring a tertiary education entity on board. We also had an entrepreneurial firm, a small startup, which really wanted to give life to the technology in supporting skills development. Plus, we then had the UNICEF side and PwC. And together, we were able to source youth with ideas in the agriculture space. And through an innovation hub that was established, we could allow them to increase their green skills. And some of them has now gone forward and opened up their own businesses. And that just goes to show, from a scale perspective, we may have touched 1, 2, or 10 people, but from a reach perspective, those individuals who acquired these new skills through the support from public, private, tertiary educations, companies like UNICEF, ourselves, and Generation Unlimited, were able to support their families, their extended families, and therefore the reach is so much more intense. So we all need to come together, public, private, NGOs, civil societies. The solution lies in us collaborating.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And I wonder, Jean-Claude, I'm going to turn to you next in terms of your experience kind of delivering on the ground, this idea of kind of collaboration and working within kind of policy environments and receiving support. I don't know if you've got any kind of specific responses or ideas about how that's kind of played out in your work.
Thank you so much. Maybe I may start by saying that GNU is doing an incredible job when it comes to the public-private partnership. And when it comes to that, it is where the young people can be empowered and can be, get the contribution. But I think for the agriculture and the environment, in addition to the public-private partnership, we can create a partnership between, let's say, the public as well as the youth-led initiatives. The youth-led initiatives that focus on the green jobs, as well as, conserving of environment, that should be greater, because when the young people are supported with the capacity building, mentorship, and finance, that should be very incredible to strengthen their initiatives. And when young people have those initiatives and are supported, they can create an impact, more impact that can help other young people to get access to the jobs, as well as, sustaining agriculture, sustaining environment in a way that it should be better for the sustainable future. Thank you.
Thanks, Jean-Claude. Yeah, really interesting, this idea that actually when we talk about what a partnership looks like and what a collaborative environment looks like, it's really about creating that enabling environment for youth-led initiatives and thinking about what does that enabling environment look like. It's the financing, it's providing the skills, the technical skills support so that young people can kind of be leading this type of change as so clearly you are doing. So thank you for sharing that. Andrea, any final reflections or thoughts from you in terms of this idea of kind of collaboration and what's needed for kind of youth-led innovations and initiatives to support green skilling?
I think we just need to start shifting the focus. As Jean-Claude mentioned, as Generation Unlimited is doing, we need to work on developing PPYPs. Public-private youth partnerships, we are also part of the solution. I think this is one of the very important things to consider. Youth is not the future anymore. We're the present. We're the ones taking action to ensure that the planet becomes sustainable, that global warming doesn't continue to go up, that it's the opposite, that it comes down. And we have provided so many interesting solutions to make sure that this is the case. So don't consider us just someone else to bring to the table for 5 minutes. We are here to help you build sustainable solutions for all.
Fantastic. Well, I couldn't think of a better way to close that conversation other than that reflection. I think this idea that youth are already leading and taking action. And in terms of kind of supporting youth-led initiatives, it's about creating those policy environments. It's about bringing all the different players to the table so that young people can lead and identify the solutions to the many, many challenges that lie ahead. I think I'd really like to take this opportunity to introduce the Green Rising, which is a global initiative that will mobilise and support young people from all over the world to take action on climate change by volunteering, skilling up, finding creative and kind of energised ways to protect the environment and its resources for themselves and for future generations, but also kind of motivate corporations, industries and governments to make stronger commitments to, as we've just said, youth-led innovations on green skills and greener lifestyles. So with that final comment, I'd like to thank all of our panelists again, just for sharing such interesting and rich insights into ways forward on the green skilling agenda. And I will pass the floor back to Kohei for our third panel, with many thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Julia, and everyone on the panel for sharing excellent examples and insights into addressing the green skills gap, a range of the transfer of skills among youth to promote a greener future, and different roles and partnerships across the sector and all levels. Now, we will move on to the third panel on skills for just green transition. This session will be facilitated by UN DESA, and I will be a moderator. Welcome to panel 3. In this last panel discussion, we focus on the other important aspect of the green skills, the skills for a just green transition. We believe that promoting a transition to an environmentally sustainable society is a matter of justice in itself. This is because the impact of the climate change is not the same across the populations, and the people in vulnerable situations and low-income countries suffer the most from its consequence. We can also look at this from the generational lens. Young people today and the future generations will likely bear the more impact of the environmental damage and face frequent extreme climate events. So, working towards the green transition already has an implication of the social justice. However, to reach there and achieve a climate resilient society that benefits all people, it is important to look into its process. Because in the process of such transformation, it is so easy to fail to pay attention to various intersectional challenges people face and miss the opportunity for inclusion. We also know that green strategies that do not take into account existing inequalities and their impact on the most vulnerable populations do not lead to the just transition. Even worse, this type of the measures tends to further escalate the divides rather than close them. To achieve the transition that is not only green, but also just and inclusive, we need to pay attention to the layers of intersectionality and barriers that continues to affect the lives of people. And this is exactly the focus of this session as we look at the inclusion, equality, as we advance efforts towards the greener future. An important question to keep in mind during our conversation: how can we ensure that no one is left behind during this massive transformation that our society is going through? Now, let's meet our speakers. We have a pleasure to welcome such diverse speakers who brings rich experiences working through different roles, contexts, and regions. Very welcome and thank you for joining us, Ms. Anjali Chalise, Ms. Adijoki Lasisi, and Ms. Francesca Della Valle. To start, I will give the floor to Anjali so that she can introduce herself and speak on the relevant experiences or any initial comments. Then we go to Adijoki and Francesca to do the same. Anjali, over to you.
Thank you so much, Koi. Hello, everyone. Namaste. I am Anjali from Nepal. I am a school and college coordinator at Nepalese Youth for Climate Action, which is the largest youth-led network fighting for climate crisis here in Nepal. I'm also a part of UNESCO Youth Climate Action Network, which is a UNESCO youth-led network that aims at supporting and strengthening international cooperation with and between young climate networks worldwide. And it particularly works on the 4 thematic areas that are education, science, culture, and information. I have been working in this issue for like the past 4 years now, and I understand very well how disproportionately climate change impacts people, especially the younger generations, and children are the vulnerable and forefronters of the climate crisis. So today having this discussion on green transitions and how no one should be leaving behind is something very important, and I look forward to talking and speaking more about it further. Thank you.
Thank you, Anjali. Next, Adijoki, would you like to go next?
Okay, greetings everyone. My name is Adijoki Lasisi. I'm the founder and creative director of Planet 3R. At Planet 3R, we convert textile and plastic waste into very valuable products. So what actually motivated me to start what I do is because of the community where I reside. So there's this, during rainy season, there's always this flooding because of the kind of improper waste management system that is there. So many people just dump their waste on the streets, in the drainage. And I look at it that this is a huge problem. How can we use what we have already? Then I decided to use the skill that I've acquired from my mom since I was little, which is weaving. So I started using the weaving of clothes skill. Then I started using it to weave those waste that is here, and especially the plastic bags. And we started using it to convert into them to school bags that students now use. You know, in a way, I look at it that, okay, this problem that we are creating ourselves, it should generate opportunity for us as well. And that is what we are doing. And I'm really happy about this discussion about this year's International Youth Day, which is our Green Skills for Youth. I look forward to a great discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Adijoki. Next, over to you, Francesca.
Thank you. So my name is Francesca Della Valle. I work as a program officer at the Inclusive Rural Transformation and Gender Equality Division at the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations in the headquarters in Rome, Italy. And here I focus my work mostly on youth-specific issues and rural youth employment activities at different levels, at policy, operational angles, but also at global, regional, and country level. And also in different settings and contexts. So both from a development side, but in fragile context as well. Over back to you, Kohei. And thank you for having me.
Thank you, all of you. Now, let's dig deeper into our discussion to understand different aspects of the skills for a just green transition and how they are relevant to young people. Let me ask the first question to you, Anjali. As a school and college coordinator at Nepalese Youth for Climate Action and a member of the Youth UNESCO Climate Action Network Steering Committee, you have dedicated your efforts to raising awareness about climate action and encouraging young people to adopt sustainable behaviors. Throughout these processes, you particularly emphasize the importance of working with communities to make sure that their voices are heard. Can you share a few of the major campaigns aimed at amplifying the voice of the communities? Additionally, based on your experience, what are the key considerations when advocating for social changes while keeping in mind the principle of no one is left behind? Please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. Through our network of Nepalese Youth for Climate Action, we have been advocating and campaigning through this issue, and we work with the communities. And one of the major campaigns that we have been done is during the preparation of enhanced nationally determined contribution. That's a booklet about the Paris Agreement. All the country need to submit that Paris Agreement NDC. So when first NDC was made in our country, there were no any word or there were no any mention of young people. So through our network, we advocated continuously and we pressurized the government to put the voices of young people out there in that important document. It was at the ENDC where we were successful at pressurizing the government, and the government also included about building the capacity of 10,000 young people of Nepal in the sector of climate change. So one of the major advocacy out here was to amplify the voices of young people and make sure we get our position on important documents and papers as well. And one of the recent campaign which we did from our network was climate culture campaign. It was when we tried connecting culture with climate, because when we go to community and we go with technical terms or jargons like mitigations or adaptation, they do not emotionally connect to those issues. But when we go and tell them about climate change is happening, and we try to connect them with their culture, with their daily lifestyle, then they get emotionally connected with the issue and they try listening to us and they try help support us, and you pressurize the government to take action. So it is one of the campaign where we focus on the communities of our country out here, and we do campaigns focusing on it. And also I recently took part at COP27 as well. So before going there, we did a conference here at Nepal at Lumbini, which is a birthplace of Gautam Buddha, where there were 100 plus young people representative from all over Nepal. So 100 plus young people came to a platform for the 3 days. We made a position paper about what we want from the government, what we want from the international platform. So we made a position paper which was taken to COP27 and we shared it on different platforms we got there. I also had a chance to meet with the Prime Minister of Netherlands at that time, and it was then when we talked about it with him as well. So we were also trying to amplify the voices of young people out here from the global south to a platform out in the international platform like that. And other thing is through this UCAN network as well from the UNESCO, we are trying to create innovative actions that majorly focuses on local challenges and local needs. And it is a network where there are representatives from global north as well as global south as well. So this both representatives come together, and we plan a campaign together to make sure we are fighting to this issue together. And the other thing is through both this network, one thing that we majorly emphasize is we try to ensure that the voices are heard. We try to be the voices of those unheard people, and we try amplifying those voices. So while talking about climate change, it is very much important for bringing those voices up front. So this is how we are campaigning right now in order to make sure they are heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Anjali, for your insightful comments and sharing your experiences. For now, we keep our reflection to later in the conversation. Now I turn to Adijoki. As an innovator, entrepreneur, and environmentalist, you have worked to promote and raise awareness about sustainable business and its contribution to the green economy. From your perspective, how can we support businesses to adopt practices that are not only environmentally sustainable, but also socially inclusive and addresses structural challenges that communities face?
Thank you so much for that question, because it's actually related to what we do at Planet 3R. As an innovator, there's something that one of the things I always talk about, in as much as we are trying to create solutions to the problems we see around us, we have to let those people be aware of the solution we are creating. And also, there are many businesses that are not even aware of those things that they are supposed to do. Like most businesses, like it's just all about profits. Majority are not looking into, making sure that the business supports green economy, to making sure that, okay, aside for the fact that it is environmentally friendly, it is also being inclusive, like making sure that people, like especially women, because 90% of our workforce at Planet 3 are actually women. So we make sure that we employ a lot of women into our organization, because one of the things that I do believe as a single mother, I know that if a woman is empowered, it actually helps not just that community, but the nation at large. So that's one of the reasons why we actually focus a lot on women. And at the same time, we believe that majority of the time women are usually at home. So one of the things that we do, making sure that we create awareness, letting them understand the problems that actually this community faces, especially through the Sustainable Development Goals. We use those the problems that are identified, the 17 goals. So they're able to understand, okay, which of the solutions that they are trying to create that is actually linked to these Sustainable Development Goals, and they can work on very well to making sure that they solve that problem. They are able to achieve that particular goal. So awareness is actually it's very important when it comes to making sure that businesses understand and be able to create solutions to the challenges that community face. And another thing again is making sure that they understand the economic impact it is going to bring, because most of the time when you're just doing when you're creating a solution to problem that people do not need, then it is an issue on its own. You might actually create a beautiful idea, you might innovate a great idea, but it might not be what people actually need at that time, because you have to make sure that you are giving paracetamol to people's headache. If they don't have headache, they don't have anything to do with your medicine. So it has to be, you have to look at their pain points and making sure that the solution. So I feel like another thing again is training, which is making sure that, okay, businesses understand what they are supposed to target when it comes to being inclusive and making sure that the people that they should work with. And the last point, which is very, very important that we've actually used, is collaboration and partnership. It actually worked a lot. A lot of things that would not have been able to achieve in the next 5 years. It's through collaboration, through partnership, we've been able to achieve that. I remember last year, we went to Togo 4 times. So we partnered with Youth Trader. So when we partner with them, it was just about them that they want to know how to they were just trying to help youth and women. And when we partner with them, we saw that our goals align because of working with women and youth. And we're like, okay, with our environmental impact, how can we work together, to be able to make sure that, okay, we create a sustainable, getting this, making sure that our wastes are no longer waste, but a resource. At the same time, making sure that we create job opportunities. So we trained 50 youths and women last year. And, after training them, all of them, they were able to get opportunity. And now the federal government of the Togo has now partnered with them to make 1 million bags from the waste that they are generating, which is going to be distributed to primary schools. So these are the ways that, especially partnership, it has really, really helped a lot. So if you're able to partner with some organizations like that, through that partnership and working together, they will be able to discover the things that they did not know that were actually there before. Through that. So working together with, like minds, or the people that, okay, maybe they have the potential, but they've not really exploited a lot. So it's going to really help a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adijoki, for sharing those perspectives. Now, I would like to ask Francesca for a question. We know that youth is not a homogeneous group. As a youth employment and institutional partnership specialist, could you please talk about the importance of recognizing the diversity of the youth coming from different contexts? For example, how has your organization used age-inclusive language, data, and other strategies to respond to the various needs of the youth in different categories, such as women, migrants, and indigenous youth in the projects? Also, as per this year's themes, what are the couple of approaches that FAO adopted in countries in terms of the green skills for youth?
Thank you, Kohei, for this question. So indeed, youth is not a homogeneous group. Also, portraying them as such completely fails to recognize their complexity and diversities within. FAO has been working with youth and young producers since its beginning. So we're talking about 1945. Yet it is only from the development and inception of the ongoing strategic framework, so a couple of years ago, that youth have been identified officially and formally as an important group whose needs must be addressed across all FAO's programmatic work areas, along with two cross-cutting themes, which are gender and inclusion, in order to promote a more systematic mainstreaming, let's say, of these issues across all FAO's work. So mainstreaming in an organization is always a path that takes quite some time. And to support this, besides having our overall strategic framework, we also developed a Rural Youth Action Plan that presents a 5-year action plan, 2021-2025 for now, that aims at equally empowering all youth. In the past couple of years, we also conducted many trainings for our regional offices and produced a guidance document titled Mainstreaming Youth in FAO's Work Program, which provides easy and simple recommendations to our workforce on how to include youth in FAO's activities while making sure also to address all the diversities within. So using age-inclusive language is one of them, one of the recommendations. Lately, we have seen a lot of agglomerations, as I tend to call them, like women and youth. But both youth and women have specific distinct needs, challenges, and opportunities, and they should be analyzed and addressed distinctively. Another recommendation of the guidance, and we always stressed it also in the regional trainings that we did, is to ensure gender, age, and status disaggregated data collection and analysis. This is extremely important when we operate in countries in FAO, and also specifically when introducing this year's International Youth Day, so Green Skills for a Just Transition. In the coming years, food production needs to be increased by 60% in order to being able to feed all the growing world population, while at the same time coping with changing weather conditions. So different approaches and methodologies were used depending on the regions and different needs of the youth within. I give just a couple of examples. For example, in the Sahel, we implemented a project titled Building Resilience in the Sahel region through job creation for youth, where given the region's extreme vulnerability to climate change, a strong emphasis was given to green jobs and green practices in agriculture, providing trainings to both youth, but also national institutions on climate change adaptation, mitigation, agroecology, green jobs, technology, and various green practices adapted to different value chains. Also, given the setting and the fragility of the context in terms of security in the Sahel, a strong social cohesion component was also included, where youth and their governments were provided safe spaces to discuss and agree on important topics needed for a just and inclusive transition. Another approach used is a methodology called Junior Farmer Field and Life Schools, JFFLS in brief, which has been implemented in over 20 years. The JFFLS is a modular methodology for both kids and youth, and it provides vocational training specifically tailored to rural settings, combined with employment promotion, access to markets when the participants are of working age, obviously. The methodology is actually a concrete manifestation of the important linkages that exist between rural employment, poverty reduction, food security and nutrition, and climate change. The subjects in the JFFLS and the exercises of trainings are chosen from a variety of modules, jointly though with the youth and in collaboration with the national partners, so to ensure that the trainings respond to beneficiaries' actual needs. Since 2015, the JFFLS has developed and included a specific module on climate change in the methodology and allowed a strong strengthening of capacities on all related matters connected to climate change and agri-food systems. There are many other approaches and good practices related to green skills for youth that in the years have been implemented by the FAO in different countries and regions. We don't have time to go through all of them, obviously, but our official website is open to all for checking. Over to you, Kohei, and thank you.
Thank you, Francesca, for sharing your experiences and that insight. I would like to now invite the panel to share the quick reaction or thoughts to what's just shared. Anyone wants to go first?
I was the last. I can go first, very, very briefly.
Yes,
amazing and interesting activities from both Adeyoke and Anjali, so Nepal, Nigeria, very nice. I work and have been working in both countries, so looking forward maybe to connect once in the countries. Very interesting how the Anjali and her network that she represents here use the climate culture campaign connecting it with local culture for better understanding in the communities. This is very important in the FAO because we work a lot in out of reach communities. And the same for Planet 3R. Very interesting in hearing how they are empowering women and young women also within them, so also within their organization, in order to progress even from their just transition. And over to you. Thank you for the insights.
Okay, thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed the sessions from the other panelists, especially what Anjali said that they are doing the climate campaign, the climate culture campaign that they're actually doing. I love the fact that they are trying to promote that culture so that people will it will be a part of people. Like, you don't have to be telling people that this is what you're supposed to do, but it's like a culture, it's part of people. And I really appreciate that. And what Francesca too is doing, like especially about the gender, letting them understand the specific needs for women and the youth. So it's actually commendable. I look forward to working with you. Yeah, thank you so much.
I would like to first thank for this opportunities where I got to get connected with this amazing panelists out here. And it's always great to hear works that people have been doing. And when Francesca shared about how she has been working for like amplifying the voices of young people and activities she has been doing, it was really great hearing about it. And Adijogi talking about capacity building among the young women and different kind of campaigns she had been doing through Planet 3R. It was really interesting and really impressive, and I look forward to get connected with both of them and hear more about that. Thank you.
Thank you all for sharing your reflection. And again, thank you to everyone for being part of today's discussion. We had a fruitful exchange of views and some very important takeaways. First, we touched upon different strategies for the inclusion of young people and vulnerable groups. For example, Anjali shared the efforts for advancing the inclusion of youth in political dialogues and decision-making processes, such as nationally determined contributions and COP27 representation. It was also shared the importance of simplifying communication about climate change, and this was especially demonstrated through climate culture campaigns, where efforts are made to build an emotional connection between climate change issues and people who are actually being affected. I think this also helps making a sense of the ownership stronger. We also heard FAO's tools and mechanisms to mainstream youth in the program work. By promoting youth mainstreaming, it also allows us to identify different needs and diverse situations young people are positioned. It was also interesting to hear, depending on the countries and context, how FAO employs tailored measures to promote the inclusion of rural youth in agriculture and the food sector. We were also able to hear efforts around bringing businesses into the conversation and promoting awareness regarding the inclusive way of operation and their contribution and impact on the communities. Another thing is the importance of the partnership. We heard about different types of the partnerships, including partnerships in the businesses setting where the partnership was effective in coming up with solutions, at the same time creating opportunities for communities. And it helps them adopt the practices that are not just environmentally sustainable, but also socially inclusive and responsive to the needs and challenges of the communities and people in the vulnerable situations. We also touched upon the partnership with young people. We heard many efforts to mainstream and include young people in dialogues, interventions, and many actions. Promoting youth inclusion means that strengthening partnership with young people. And it is encouraging to learn that youth are already taking climate actions in various areas and creating momentum for a just transition. What we explored today are just a few examples to highlight the efforts to promote a just, inclusive society where no one is left behind. We should definitely continue this conversation at the global, regional, and national levels when we go back to our respective roles on how we can create an environment where stakeholders and partners come together to support the development of the green skills for youth, to support the transition without any form of inequality. With this note, we would like to close this panel. Thank you to all our speakers for your contributions. Now, we move to the next and final session, Spotlight session by UNEP's Sustainable Lifestyle and Education team. I would like to invite Ms. Laura Messias, Communication Consultant from United Nations Environment Program. Laura, over to you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Laura Sudillo Messias, and I work for the Sustainable Lifestyles team at the UN Environment Program. I am honored to have the space to talk to you about the power of people to transition to a sustainable future. Unfortunately, it is a hard time to have hope. Youth has unfairly been tasked to carry the responsibility of saving the world from planetary crises they were born into. In no way should each one of us be expected to heal the ills of the planet, but we sure can hope to help ourselves, our families, our friends, and our communities to live better lives. Households are responsible for 2/3 of all greenhouse gas emissions. The unsustainable system of production and consumption that we live in is fueled by a set of aspirations that aligns happiness with material possessions. Even if we manage to make all production circular and close the loop in the economy, if that circle does not become much smaller, meaning we consume a lot less than we are right now, we remain in need of more resources than the Earth can provide. As well, time and time again, we find proof that over-consuming lifestyles are in no way providing us with good health, well-being, and actual personal satisfaction. In fact, they keep isolating us, depriving us of communal life, and making us lose touch with nature. The richest 10% of the world is responsible for almost half of all global emissions. We have set up an unjust system to allow just a few to live a life of excess because it's portrayed to us as a representation of success. It is time to find ways to rethink that definition into a goal that is attainable to all. Make sustainable living the default, desirable choice that allows everyone to meet their needs better and later. UNEP is trying to facilitate this change of narrative in which youth has a very important role to play. It is our duty to make sure the evidence is out there, to understand the crisis we face, and to ensure we're coming up with the most effective solutions for them. Most importantly, we strive to convey the importance of all stakeholders in society to commit seriously to systemic action. The path ahead is very overwhelming for all. We know we need to reduce emissions drastically and immediately. But what does that mean for the average person? How does that translate into our day-to-day lives? Are organizations like ours conveying the right narratives, doing their job right, and actually connecting and inspiring young people? This has been the goal of our work on lifestyles, to give everyone, especially youth, the skills to recognize what they can do within their means and fitting their context, culture, and access to resources. Moreover, to understand their power and their role to push and demand for a change in culture and society that embraces sustainability. Finally, we try to seize new spaces of discussion like social media to have people truly engage with our messages. This is why we work with the Anatomy of Action, a toolkit on the most effective actions for individuals to combat climate change. We address 5 sectors: food, mobility, leisure, money, and stuff, in which all of us have power of decision, however small that it may be, and convey which actions are the most effective to reduce emissions in each one of them. It is completely adaptable to personal context and can serve as a guide on what to do to transition towards sustainable lifestyles. It also makes us realize the extent of our power and the need for sustainable choices to be made available and accessible by the government and the private sector in order to be able to change our ways. More importantly, it allows us to recognize the benefits of sustainable living and to evidence how it can make us thrive together while reducing our impact on the environment. It is an easy, simple set of materials that can inspire us to want to shift to a new way of living. The Anatomy is part of the Sustainable Lifestyles Action Academy, powered by the Go for SDGs initiative, which has many other tools like free online courses, ongoing work with higher education, and the Green Jobs for Youth Pact, that's calling on companies to commit to invest in new green jobs for youth, universities to prepare greener curricula, governments to develop national youth employment strategies, and youth to be an active part of the process. Young people, as the thriving force of our societies, can be the voices that lead the way to a more sustainable future. If they have the right tools, in the future, they will lead governments that prioritize policies to enable sustainable lifestyles. They will create businesses that provide sustainable products and services for all, and they will live lives that are mindful of their impact in people and planet. It is vital that their actions are guided by science and that they channel this era of influence to push for a more sustainable and equitable humanity. No one is capable to fix the planet on their own, but we all have the power to advocate within our reach and plant the seed of change in those around you. May there be many or may there be few. As small as that may seem, it is worth a try. Make yours count. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura, for sharing the relevant efforts and perspective from UNEP on the roles and responsibilities of the individuals in promoting sustainable lifestyle, as well as sharing useful toolkits to support such decisions. Now, we come to the end of this webinar. We hope you enjoyed the insights, knowledge, and experiences we share throughout this dialogue today. Before concluding this event, I will pass the floor to Mr. John Wilmos, Acting Director of the Division for Inclusive Social Development, UN DESA, to provide his closing reflections and remarks. Once again, thank you all.
Dear friends, we have now reached the closing of our webinar on Green Skills for Youth, Toward a Sustainable Future, as part of the official commemoration of International Youth Day in 2023. I am John Wilmot, Acting Director of the Division for Inclusive Social Development in the Department of Economic and Social Affairs, which supports International Youth Day on behalf of the United Nations. As we conclude this dynamic webinar centered around the theme of Green Skills for Youth, I would like to share a few observations with the hope that they may be useful to all of us going forward. First, I am encouraged by young people's determination and commitment toward green skills, green jobs, sustainable lifestyles, and a just green transition. You will probably agree with me that as we all work towards creating a sustainable world, young people, such as the young speakers who joined us here today, are already creating and seizing opportunities to acquire, and most importantly, to leverage green skills for the benefit of their communities and countries. Youth actions anchored in green skills are already generating a positive impact at all levels and across various domains. We saw several powerful examples of this today, and there are millions of others around the world. With that in mind, we should follow young people's lead in creating a sustainable future. Second, I am confident in the transformative power of green skills in our efforts to generate employment and economic opportunities for youth. As you may have seen in our infographic for International Youth Day, which is available on our website, a green transition will result in the creation of 8.4 million jobs for young people by 2030. In addition, there is an important multiplier effect. For each green job, on average, an additional 1.4 jobs are created. In other words, green jobs can help to increase employment, reduce poverty, and raise the standard of living. That alone should be reason enough to invest in green skills for youth. Third, I am convinced that when young people in all their diversity gain and employ green skills, it will not only allow them to tackle various sustainability issues, it will also pave the way towards a more inclusive and fair society. However, a just green transition cannot be achieved without a transformation in the structures and habits that perpetuate inequality today, including discriminatory laws and practices on the basis of gender, race, religion, and other social categories. If we continue along the current path, the green transition will favor male-dominated sectors, resulting in 3 times more jobs for men than for women. Ensuring that the development of green jobs is available and offered to all youth is essential and critical for every generation, including future ones. Some of our speakers today have highlighted powerful practices in ensuring that vulnerable groups of youth have the opportunity to develop and employ green skills. Let us examine how these approaches can be replicated and amplified. In summary, I am hopeful that green skills for youth, for all youth, will be seen as transformative and treated as a priority by all actors in implementing the 2030 Agenda. With that in mind, as we leave this virtual gathering and return to our daily roles and lives, I invite all of us to carry on this discussion and this learning process until green skills are a reality for all youth. I wish to extend my heartfelt gratitude to all speakers whose contributions have made this webinar so interesting. Your commitment to sustainable development, your creativity, and your resourcefulness are truly inspiring. Lastly, I wish to highlight that this webinar, along with the overall efforts around International Youth Day 2023, was led by UN DESA in collaboration with the UN Global Initiative on Decent Jobs for Youth and with Generation Unlimited. It also benefited from the expertise of many other partners, both within and outside the United Nations family. Without this global partnership, it would not have been possible to have such a fruitful discussion to mark this important day. Thank you, and happy International Youth Day to all.